How do we find rest when we are very sick or someone we love is severely ill? How do we handle depression? Better yet, do the people of God get depressed? Good morning. It's time for this week's Bible lesson. Today is an introduction to this week's lesson in which we look at a quadriplegic and a depressed prophet and how they found rest. Our memory text for this week is found in Psalms 27, verse 1, and it's the New King James Version. And it says, "The Lord is the light, is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Again, that's found in Psalms 27, verse 1, the New King James Version. Of course, our aim is to memorize it by this Friday. Plenty of time because today is Sunday. Now, many of the people Jesus encountered in his early ministry were sick. Sometimes they were sick even to the verge of death. Large crowds, many people, huge crowds came to Jesus for healing and for rest from their suffering. And Jesus never turned any of them away. They all received healing. Sometimes he spoke a word and they were fully recovered. Sometimes he touched the sick and they were miraculously healed. And sometimes he sent them away. He sent them off, and the healing took place as they went on their way. Jesus healed men, women, children, Jews, non-Jews, rich people, and the poor people, and just plain old ordinary people. As in the worst case of cancer, heart disease, or even COVID, the worst cases of leprosy and blindness were not out of Jesus' reach. He even healed those with the most challenging sicknesses of all, or the most challenging sickness of all. He miraculously brought the dead back to life. How could he do that? You know, he was able to do that because he is the giver and sustainer of all life. So this week, we look at two very different examples of healing. In one, the sufferer was so ill that he could not even come to Jesus on his own. His symptoms were clearly visible to everyone. He was a paraplegic. In the other case, there were no visible symptoms, but he was in a deep, dark place. In both cases, healing came in God's time and in his way. As we explore the topic of rest from pain and suffering, we will also deal with the questions many of us at some point in our life have experienced. And that is, what happens when our prayers for healing are not answered? How then do we find rest? That concludes today's lesson on free to rest from sin and suffering. So I ask you to stay tuned to tomorrow as we address rest from the quadriplegic whose condition was the result of his own doing. Is there healing for sickness resulting from our own doing? That's the answer that you will get to the question you will get tomorrow as we continue our study. If you would like to review a copy of next week's lesson or this week's lesson, you can obtain it at ssnet.org, ssnet.org. All you got to do is click on Adult SS and select weekly lessons. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great and marvelous day.